Aw man, what do you want to do? Kill your own creatures, dude? Me too. And I'll do it with a sweet brunette geriatric at my side. Teysa Karlov has been around since the first Ravnica set, and that was 112 years ago. She's an Orzhov, which are violent bankers, dude. Basically enforcers for Chase Bank, and she's 111 years old. A long time ago, I built a Teysa Karlov deck, and it was really neat. Let's talk about some fun stuff you can do with Teysa Karlov, brother. But first, bang that gong and mercilessly slap your fingers against the like and subscribe buttons. The Brotherhood of Bros is 5,000 strong and growing every day. Now, in this era of unfun prices, each Teysa card is pretty reasonably priced. The original Teysa Orzhov Scion is about $6, pretty powerful commander in her own right, some combos with Darkest Hour in there. So this card is 1 white and a black for a legendary creature Human Advisor. It's a 2/3. Sacrifice 3 white creatures, exile target creature. Whenever another black creature you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. The ability to exile using your sacrifice fodder is pretty awesome. And then later on came Teysa Envoy of Ghosts. Sheesh, this one costs 7 mana but has some pretty serious effects. That No Mercy effect can be pretty huge, but makes her a magnet for removal. She can bang in pretty effectively, having protection from creatures, but this Teysa is mostly relegated to bulk boxes due to the fact that it costs 7 mana. And then came Ravnica Allegiance. This iteration was dubbed the Death Harmonicon. So you have Teysa Karlov, 2 white and a black for a legendary creature Human Advisor. It's a 2/4. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Creature tokens you control have Vigilance and Lifelink. This was going to be reprinted in Commander Masters. You're going to be bummed if you pull this from a $60 collector booster, especially because it's printed at rare and you can get it for 75 cents. Beyond that, it also just got a reprint in March of the Machines Multiverse Legends, dude. If you said that this was tomfoolery, then you'd be right. Why the heck is this in the Ultimate Masters Price Gouge Edition Commander Masters? Heck if I know. But if you pull it and you're about to start crying to your girlfriend about how you'll never pull anything good and you have bad luck, blah blah blah, and you can't afford to take her to Subway this week for your date night, $5 footlong, then despair no more. You can pull off some sweet combos and I'm here to talk about them. Now back when I built this thing, I slotted in cards like Ministrant of Obligation. 2 and a white for a creature Human Cleric has Afterlife 2. I love this guy. I like his drip, I like his little buddies hanging out with him, he's got a cool swinging sensor and he's hanging out on his favorite ledge. Anyway, sacrifice this guy with Teysa out, make 4 tokens. That's great, right? So you get this guy and Teysa on the battlefield, along with Ashnod's Altar and Nim Deathmantle. Well, when he dies, you have 2 triggers, right? You control both, so you get to order them any way you want. Resolve Ministrant's trigger first, you'll make 4 little spirit buddies, sacrifice a couple on the altar, then you'll have the mana to resolve Nim Deathmantle's trigger and bring your old Ministrant friend back. Listen man, Ashnod's sacrifice ability is a mana ability that doesn't use the stack. Phyrexian altars like this as well. If someone tries to pop it with say a Krosan Grip, right, which has split second, you can still do all the sacrificing you want before it resolves. Would not work with Altar of Dementia or similar because those are not mana abilities. Rule 605.1a. An activated ability is a mana ability if it meets all of the following criteria. It doesn't require a target, it could add mana to a player's mana pool when it resolves, and it's not a loyalty ability. How about the old Tithe Taker? Similar situation, this guy's stealing all your taxes, dude, giving them to Joe Biden. It's 1 and a white for a creature Human Soldier, it's a 2/1. During your turn, spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast, and abilities your opponents activate cost 1 more to activate unless they're mana abilities. Has Afterlife 1. Stuff like this makes for a dynamic combo deck, and with Teysa on the battlefield you can get in all kinds of crazy shenanigans. So what are some sweet cards to slot into a Teysa Karlov deck? Well, there are a couple that create Eldrazi spawns or Eldrazi scions when a creature dies. The first one is Pawn of Ulamog. 1 black for a creature vampire shaman, it's a 2/2. Whenever this guy or another non-token creature you control dies, you may create a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn creature token. It has sacrifice this creature, add colorless. I love those little Eldrazi spawns, Eldrazi scions, dude. Maybe it was just due to the time I grew up playing Magic. Look at this hunk out there slaying the grunge scene in 1994 in Portland, dude. Then you have the old Sifter of Skulls. This guy's an Eldrazi. 3 and a black for a 4/3 with Devoid. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token. Blah blah blah. Look at this old dog sifting around in the skull heap, dude. That's warehouse management, buddy. You gotta sort your skulls. I say that all the time. And listen, man, if there's one thing that Orzhov does great, it's Aristocrats. You gotta slot them all in there. I'm partial to Wine Mom in these colors. Cruel Celebrant is just a spiteful lady, dude. She laughs at her husband when he has to go to work in his business socks all day while she stays home and drinks wine and ignores the kids. That's true cruelty, brother. Don't forget, Teysa doubles up that trigger as well. Mirkwood Bats, come on, coming straight out of Lord of the Rings, dude. This is going to be a staple in these Aristocrat combo decks. This little guy gets your opponents when the tokens come in and when they go out. Pretty merciless, especially when you're doubling tokens with Teysa, probably carrying rabies. Look at this guy, he might be carrying rabies too. You got Elas Il-Kor, Sadistic Pilgrim, white and black for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Core Cleric, it's a 2/2, has Death Touch. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. This guy's the most sadistic pilgrim you're ever going to come across off the Mayflower, dude. Look at this goth legend. This guy comes out of Dominaria and is a sweet legendary Aristocrat staple. Look at the old Grim Haruspects out here. He's messing around with some poor monkey's brains, dude. This guy and his brothers, Midnight Reaper and Morbid Opportunist, make sure we keep our hands stocked up, and that's important. Skull Clamp. This is one of those cards that gets reprinted all the time and never goes down in price. It's always $4 to $5. So it's 1 for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1, -1. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. Dude, it has equipped for 1. Listen, you have these stupid little tokens out there. Give them the clamps, buddy. Draw 4 cards. You're going to be swimming in cards. And then fresh out of all will be 1, you got Teysa's grandpa, the giant skeleton out there. Drivnod, Carnage Dominus. He's a Dominus and he's a Dominus. 3 black for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Horror. It's an 8/3. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Has black Phyrexian, exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard, put an indestructible counter on this guy. This guy kind of does the same thing, and end games really quick. Look at this little Dusk Rose out there with her cool little Conquistador saber. Elenda got a reprint in Double Masters 2022 and dipped down to about $5. So you know what I did? I snagged a copy and now I'm up $2, dude. So I'm selling it and I'm going to Subway with somebody's mom. Elenda the Dusk Rose is 2 white and a black for a legendary creature, Vampire Knight. It's a 1/1 with lifelink. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Elenda. When Elenda dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink where X is her power. Double that up with Teysa and you're going to be in business. Speaking of business, Atheros God, a passage. 1 white and a black for a legendary enchantment creature, God. It's a 5/4 with indestructible. As long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7, Atheros isn't a creature. Whenever another creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3 life. I don't see the old god talked about too much anymore. Once upon a time, Josh Lee Kwai built a Shadowborn Apostles deck around this guy, and every fanboy in the fandom was drooling over old Atheros, who's up to like $17. In this deck with Teysa, that last ability triggers twice, so your opponent is likely to just give it back to you. Luminous Broodmoth is 2 white for a creature insect. It's a 3/4 with flying. Whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it. Now listen, I hate moths, dude. I live in a place where they can grow to the size of your hand and just be a general nuisance. Combine this guy with a sacrifice outlet and an undying creature, and you've got yourself a loop there to drain the table with your aristocrats. Now Yahenni Undying Partisan is 2 and a black for a legendary creature, Aetherborn Vampire, 2/2 with haste. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on this guy. Sacrifice another creature, gains indestructible until end of turn. You're going to need a critical mass of sacrifice outlets, and this guy's pretty cheap and gets pretty huge over the course of a game. Yahenni was pretty pricey for a while, but it's like $1.50 right now. Note that Teysa says if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. It doesn't have to be your creature dying, dude. So Yahenni gets double counters. Now if you want to get real nasty, and you know I do, slot in Dictator Erebos and the old Grave Pact here. So this is 1 black for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature. This is getting a reprint in Commander Masters and will hopefully come down from $30. If you're looping creatures in and out, you basically just have a lock on the board state. I don't know how to say this guy's name. Ao the Dawn Sky, 3 white for a legendary creature, Dragon Spirit. It's a 5/4 with flying and vigilance. When this guy dies, choose 1. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put any number of non-land permanent cards with total mana value 4 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, or put 2 +1/+1 counters on each permanent you control that's a creature or vehicle. That is a sweet dice trigger, dude. Slap out some non-land permanents and do it twice. Teysa deck utilizes lots of little creatures and the curve is relatively low, so 4 mana is not a huge obstacle. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on Weatherlight Completed. So this is 2 generic mana for a legendary artifact vehicle. It's a 5/5 with flying. As long as this has 4 or more Phyresis counters on it, it's a Phyrexian creature in addition to its other types. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a Phyresis counter on this thing, then draw a card if it has 7 or more. If it doesn't, scry 1. It's pretty sweet in a Teysa deck. Costs 2 mana, comes down early, and is a fleshy skyship, dude. You can't beat that. And listen, we talked about some combos, but how do you tutor out the pieces in these colors? Well, it's easy, dude. Just spend $100 on 3 to 4 tutors and you're good to go. Grab a demonic, grab a vampiric, and you're all set. But what about transmute cards? We need tokens, sacrifice outlets, and aristocrat payoffs. So the idea is to get all those out there and make it happen. Tutors are always better, but Dimir House Guard is a tutor that's also a sacrifice outlet. Look at this guy, dude. He's just a purple skeleton with some purple skeletons hanging out in the background. So this is 3 and a black for a creature skeleton that's a 2/3 with fear. Sacrifice creature, regenerate. This guy has transmute for 1 black, black, black. So listen, I just wanted to sing the praises of my favorite Orzhov lady. I'm not a big fan of the Libre piercing. She kind of looks like the guy from Disturbed a little bit, but she's 112 years old. She's cute. She's lovely. She's got that drip that'll make you flip. Don't sleep on this classic commander. She's got a couple reprints. It's going to be dirt cheap, dude, even if you want to grab one of the showcase versions. People always kind of underestimate the aristocrats that drain for 1 life. These things add up super fast, especially when they're doubled by your commander. So check it out. Sneaky G from Better Commander signing off.